ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Madhu Bhandari, and it's a pleasure to host you all at the maiden session of the Risk Masterclass 2020 under the aegis of India Risk Management Awards, brought to you by ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company and CNBC TV18. Well, the timing of the Risk Masterclass really couldn't have been better as we all try to recover from the adverse impact of COVID-19. 2020 has indeed thrown some unprecedented challenges and risks at us, and now the focus is on recovery and on enhancing the resilience of our economies as well as our societies. So to set the ball rolling, I'm going to first invite Dr. R.S. Sodhi, Managing Director of the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation that owns India's very favorite dairy brand, Amul, to deliver the keynote address. So it's over to you, Dr. Sodhi.
Thank you very much. I mean, being a doodwala, basically, or any businessman, I think there's no business without risk. But risk are basically two types, known and unknown. And we always take precautions, the risk management for the known risk. But now what we are going through is pandemic, which was unpredictable, unknown. But based on the organization leadership and the objectives, people have fought this crisis management very well. And now we are prepared for taking such type of risk in the future. Coming to Amul, in our supply chain, one side we have 3.6 million farmers who are producing twice in a day milk from there, around, in case of Gujarat, 60 lakh cows and buffalo. And also one side for 1.35 billion, milk or food is a source of nutrition essential. But the other side, like milk in India, is a source of livelihood for 100 million poor families. 80% are landless and marginal. So how we manage this supply chain, what changes we did, how we manage the risk of this stoppage of logistic or lockdown. Right from 12th March, we started communicating to our 3.6 million farmers through the big banners in each village cooperative society. So we communicated what are the safety measures they have to take, whether social distancing or sanitizing of hand or standing in the queue. The other important thing which I think which has really played a big role in this whole crisis was the communication. We started communicating with all the supply chain partners. I talked about the farmers, then all our logistic partners, all our people who are working the plant, all our distributor and retailer that look here, milk is an essential product. No doubt it's your job or responsibility, but more than this is your duty to the nation. And let me tell you, everybody gave their best. Everybody came out and they gave their best so that the milk is not stopped. The third thing which we did is people are taking risk. People are coming out of their home. So what we decided, we did on 25th morning, we announced incentives for everybody. All logistic partners, transporters were given 20 to 30% more freight. All drivers and cleaners, they were given at each loading point 100 rupees both buffalo. Plus free food. Similarly, all our people, the factory people, all the labor were given 20 to 30% more wages. So this incentives and the motivation and the communication worked a lot. So with these words, I can tell you that it is not possible to define all the risks, but one should be open for the risk. One should be prepared for the risk. Only thing is you have to say that in any risk, organization is with everybody, organization with all the supply chain, हम मरेंगे भी इकट्ठे और तरेंगे भी इकट्ठे. If that message is conveyed, one can really conquer and succeed in any risk. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sodhi. That was very, very aptly put that team strength and unity is really, really important in these unprecedented times. And those were some fascinating insights into how Amul has kept its resilience up through the pandemic. I'm particularly impressed by how you've taken care of your small farmers and frontline workers Well, time to move on to our next speaker of the day, and he will deliver a special address on the impact of COVID-19 on the manufacturing sector and ensuring business continuity in a boundaryless ecosystem. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Kaushik Chatterjee, Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer of
Thank you
Tata
very
Steel.
much,
Over
and
to you,
good
Kaushik.
evening to all of you. This pandemic in the initial weeks and months, especially in end March and April, going into at least mid-May, has had a debilitating impact on the manufacturing sector, not only in India, but in the rest of the world. And I think that is where the resilience of the risk management process, systems, and the ability to take agile leadership positions have stood out. If you really look at from a risk perspective, it's important for any company to have the risk radar very alert. And I would say that when the national lockdown was announced in March end, we raised our radar to level 5 because it was very clear that this is not something that we have experienced in the past. So we actually looked at creating war rooms, and the war rooms got created with both vertically and horizontally, which is at the leadership level as well as at the level of each function. And we quickly changed our orientation to, say, for example, moving into the export markets. We figured out that the ports were still open, the railways were still working in some form or the other. So the first orientation is, if you have to keep the revenue line going, you have to look at the export market. And given the fact that if you are cost competitive on a global cost curve, you have the world as your market, at least in these circumstances. So you look at diverting a large part of your production into the export market, ensure that you have created the supply chain systems and resilience, which may have not been tested before, to see that how can we produce and sell to the level that we can sustain ourselves. All decisions then becomes focused on cash neutrality, and all decisions become pivoted on cash. So spends get reviewed, all kinds of capex gets reviewed, and then you look at the calibration between short term and long term.
Thank you very much, Kaushik. Those were some very, very interesting insights into how businesses can really achieve operational efficiencies in a boundaryless ecosystem. And like you said, this has been a war-like situation, and businesses have had to set up war rooms, do some strategic thinking, and really act on their feet to mitigate risks. Thank you very much for joining us here. Well, up next, we have Sandeep Goradia, Head of Corporate Solutions Group at ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company, and he's going to be sharing his perspective on devising affordable risk management strategies, and he'll also share why it is imperative for organizations to invest in technologies for a boundaryless risk management culture. Welcome, Sandeep, over to you.
As I speak today, we are witnessing an unprecedented risk event, COVID-19 pandemic. We have always been, I remember, we were doing a lot of, webinars and seminars, about a decade back. And, as whilst we were all growing up, we used to hear about various global risks. And pandemic was one of the things which was considered to be more of theoretical in nature. But now we are actually in the midst of something that that was considered to be more of theoretical in nature. In fact, it has impacted the entire world, be it individuals, families, or businesses. For the insurance sector as well, the current crisis has emerged as the single largest global event, surpassing all our previous catastrophes and multiple cyclones that we have faced in a single year, and even, in fact, the global financial crisis of 2008. The impact of COVID-19 is not only restricted to the health-related ailments, but in fact, it has changed the way in which we have, we interact, travel, work. And in fact, it has also led to the emergence of a lot of new risks. Cyber attacks. It has become much more common today when digitization is becoming a way of life. If you look back into history, where various economies have been hit by some major global catastrophic events, insurance industry globally has always come out with various solutions which can help the economy to come back on its feet. Post 9/11, that led to a creation of the terrorism risk pool, which ensured affordable prices and adequate covers for protection against terrorism risk. The industry is already working on, in close coordination with the government, on developing a pandemic risk pool, which would cover risks such as business interruption, unemployment, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandeep, for sharing your valuable perspectives on devising a boundaryless risk management architecture. Well, next up, I would like to invite Vivek Chaturvedi, Risk Assurance Services Partner at PwC, to share his findings on how risk management landscape is really evolving and the current trends in risk management that enterprises should really watch out for.
So I just wanted to start with this misconception about risk management. And I always like to call risk management a spiritual topic. Everyone has their faiths and beliefs about risk management. Some say it is only strategic, some say it's operational, some say it's only about managing routine events. You can't do anything about black swans. Whereas some say we should be prepared for black swan events. Some say it's only external risk, and some say it's only internal risk. Some say it's about loss, some say it's about opportunity. Some say you should look at risk on an inherent basis. Some say you should look at risk on a residual basis. And some say only control what you can control and don't control what you can't, right? But essentially, what is risk? Risk is any event that could impact achievement of your business objectives, right? So organizations set themselves business objectives. There are things that they want to achieve, and take calls. So business is all about taking decisions. It's all about exercising discretion. And as I always say, knowing your risk unlocks power. So you're able to take more risk-informed business decision. You're able to not only enhance but also demonstrate a higher degree of corporate governance, and something which everyone's really expecting these days. You're able to better allocate capital and resources. Reduce surprises. Like I said, no one likes a bad surprise. Everyone likes pleasant surprises. So by bringing in a culture of transparency, communication, you're able to reduce surprises. And most importantly, peace of mind. Everyone deserves it. Everyone works hard towards it. And you do not really want to leave things to chance.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vivek, for really sharing those findings that can help businesses maneuver some of these unprecedented and new risks that the pandemic has thrown at us. And I found it particularly interesting that you equated risk management with spirituality. That was a fascinating analogy out there. Thank you very much, Vivek, for joining us here today.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass. ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a power-packed panel discussion coming up for you. We have leading industry experts from the manufacturing sector joining us for a discussion on boundaryless risk management, especially in the manufacturing space. Let me welcome our panelists for this special session. We are going to be joined by Mukesh Agarwal, Executive President of Ultratech Cement, Parthasarathy S, Chief Accounting and Transformation Officer at Nayara Energy, Alok Agarwal, Executive Director, ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company, Anand Agarwal, Group Financial Controller at Tata Power, and Neeraj Kanagat, Head of Global Insurance at Jindal SAW Group. Mukesh, if I can begin with you, successive lockdowns for a cement manufacturing company couldn't have really been easy. Employees and labor had to be really kept safe. In these times, demand has been low, revenues have been dropping. I know that you've restricted your capex investments for the year. You've also been selling off some non-core assets to deleverage your balance sheet. With all of this going on, what have you perceived to be your biggest risk? And what are some of the new and emerging risks that have totally taken you by surprise in 2020?
No, sometimes risk is also an opportunity also. So no doubt the COVID-19 was the risk, and especially the industries like cement, which is a low-cost product. Just for the sake of information, we sell every month 7 to 8 million ton of material. For that, just for movement, we require 2.5 lakh trucks load. And this pandemic, most of the times, all the drivers and cleaners has been run away. To restart itself is a big challenge for us. But now things are coming back, and 70 to 80% things have come in normal way. So now the opportunity is also there. So for futures, we are ready for any such risk or anything.
Right. Well, good to hear that. Good to hear that you've been taking this as an opportunity and you're, upping the game as far as risk management is concerned. Let me also bring in Partha Sarthi. Partha, oil and gas saw a huge demand slump as global transportation, global aviation came to a standstill. Diesel consumption has taken a hit over the last couple of months. Trucks and public transport have remained idle because of a weaker economy, because of social distancing and people preferring personal mobility over shared transportation. And added to that is the price advantage that diesel has been losing because of additional taxes. So how prepared were refiners really for all this change that has happened very, very quickly in a short span of time? And what kind of new risks has 2020 brought for your sector in particular?
Yeah, pretty much. I think the 2020 was a tough year for us. Maybe oil and gas was much more affected than COVID because we had previously a kind of a two chain of events which went into the tantrum. One is the supply shock which we had when the OPEC and OPEC Plus came into the market with the supply of the product in excess, and then it followed by the demand slump. So all in all, it was a balanced approach because the oil and gas has been going through a geopolitical turmoil, and we're much prepared for this. Yes, the demand slump was a bit of a blow, but it was managed.
Right. Well, good to hear the optimism, Partha. Neeraj, COVID-19 has indeed been a multi-pronged war of sorts, from employee safety to balance sheet protection to meeting existing customer demands and enabling remote working. And then, of course, the risks that come with remote working, cybersecurity, data security threats. When you look at all of this holistically, what are some of those key pillars for large-scale manufacturers to get all of this done with speed and agility?
We at Jindal Saw Group thought way ahead of others. At the time when the water was still far from being turbulent, we took to the drawing board and chalked out our roadmap. First and foremost was facilitating work from home. All was done at least 15 days before the lockdown was declared. We had all mock runs, prepared ourselves for this. Secondly, the safety of our employees, permission from authorities to operate factories became the next big hurdle. We installed sanitization tunnels at each and every entry point, installed huge number of mechanized hand washing stations. As a matter of fact, in one of the plants, there were more than 400 wash basins installed for the employees. Thermal scanning, frequent hand sanitization, monitored social distancing. It was only after we demonstrated to our safety procedures to the authorities that they allowed us to work with 100% workforce. This was within 15 days of the lockdown.
Good to hear that you really acted ahead of time, because time was of critical essence here. Anand, power companies, of course, come under essential services. So you, in fact, had to literally power on through the pandemic and supply electricity to different parts of the country, lockdown or no lockdown. Your work didn't really stop. In addition, of course, you had to keep your ground force of thousands of people safe, enable work from home for your corporate staff as well. And of course, we are in the middle of a global recession. So given this whole picture, what have your risk management strategies been like while ensuring business continuity, of course?
What happened that, initially, because, commercial organizations, stopped their, some stopped their, manufacturing activities, or this hotel industry or this entertainment industry, were out of business for some point of time. So that reduced our power requirements. So that was a challenge for us to handle. Grid availability 24 hours, so that there is no fluctuation and there is no, disruption in giving power. So that we had to manage. And because of our philosophy in maintaining operations and management and periodic overhaul of the assets, we were able to manage without any disruption. The demand for the power came down by 10 to 20% initially, but now it is back on track.
Right, as the festive season comes up, we're all hoping that recovery will be much faster. Thank you, Anand, for those very fascinating insights. Let me also bring in Alok at this point. Alok, you've heard a lot of the industry perspectives from leading manufacturers. As an insurer, what are the emerging trends? What are the evolving risk types that you've been observing over the course of this year, particularly with respect to boundaryless organizations of today? And what would you say the mega trends of 2020 have been, particularly for large-scale manufacturers?
So first and foremost, Amritu, let me tell you that apart from the mega trend for manufacturing company, let me tell about one basic mega trend. There is a greater awareness of health which has come because of this COVID. The second biggest trend, which is also quite obvious, is that the cyber security has become, because there are boundaryless organizations have got created. Most of us are either working from home or we are working on roster basis. Sometimes we are working from office, sometimes we are working from home. Most of us are on Zoom and other online media channels. So basically, cyber security has become a big threat. And we have seen demand. In fact, before COVID only, we had seen demand coming for cyber security. But that time it was limited to service companies and media companies and BFSI companies. But manufacturing companies were a little cold to adopt to cyber security covers, at least. Now the demand for cyber security covers, both in large companies as well as in MSMEs, has increased multifold. And we are seeing increased demand for cyber security covers and for data breaches. Another thing, in order to continue functioning the way we want it to be, we see that unmanned aerial vehicles like drones, etc., have started being used. So this has emerged as a new area of insurance. So drone insurance is another new area of insurance which has erupted in India. And although it is small as of today, but I see this in next 3 to 5 years becoming very big. So these are some of the broad trends that we have observed over the last 6 to 7 months.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking out time and joining us here in the Risk Masterclass, the maiden edition of 2020, and really appreciate you taking out time and sharing your experiences and valuable insights on mitigating and managing risks in boundaryless organizations. With that, it's a wrap for this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay safe. Goodbye.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.